Hi, I'm Sydney, and I am a servant of the Almighty God. I want to do this episode, if you would indulge me for a few minutes. I'll call it my synopsis, so that anyone interested can know a little bit about who is this Sydney who calls himself a servant of the Almighty God. Well, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm one of 14 siblings. I was always a little, different. I was very interested in what happens, and I guess I had this engineering mind of not only how things work, but why. Why do things function the way they do? When I was about 12, 13, somewhere around there, I had a very interesting experience. It's what I call my near-death experience. I had snuck away with a couple of cigarettes. I went to this place called Mora Dam, and I was out there fishing. And I experienced what I would imagine would be something like a terminal breath, where I took this puff of a cigarette, couldn't catch the next breath, and I struggled for the next breath and passed out. And I found myself in this place that was bright, and it felt very comfortable. And after a while I could hear voices speaking and saying, well, maybe we should go welcome him. And then I heard this voice say, no, because no one knows where he is, and his work is not done. And then I heard the voice saying, yeah, but he's already here, we should go. And the voice says, no, because no one knows where he is, and his work is not done. And after that, I regained consciousness, I guess, because I was on the ground. I was lying among the bushes and and I can remember getting up and being really dizzy and basically having to dust off all my stuff and this sense of like coming back consciousness, because I was just so dizzy and like a little vertigo and stuff, and wow. But the experience that I had was so intense, so real. And one of the things right at that moment I felt was when I was in that place, I felt this warmth, like a warm wind. But something told me that warmth you felt was not, there was no breeze. There was no wind blowing. It was love. It was a place where there was so much love you could actually feel it on your skin. It was amazing. And for quite a while I considered, how could I get back to that place? But I know I couldn't do anything rash, ridiculous, because there was this voice saying, his work is not done, and I never understood it. So I went on, I was a rather crazy kid, and pretty intelligent. I mean, everything came easily to me. So many years later, I found myself, as a software engineer living in Rancho Cucamonga, California. Many years later. And I felt this need, I started going to church, wanting to be closer to God. I was reading, the Bible, and, I basically read the New Testament cover to cover, but going to church, which I felt this great pull, do this, go to church, there was something missing. And I thought, what I needed to do, and this is why, as part of was this, it's kind of like, was I supposed to do this, or did it just happen? But I started fasting and praying, and I had some amazing events occur, to the point where I would actually be sleeping and hear voices say, Sydney, get up and write. And I got up and I wrote. And it was during that period that I received these messages. And not to be confused with many people who get, they say they hear the voice of God telling them, directing them and all this stuff. I just, I have this engineering mind, and I question everything. But these messages seem to go along, what I call congruent with everything, the commandments, which I learned afterwards is really what's important. And so the first one was our science. Science reveals God's methods. And I didn't fully understand that until later on. And the second one was the key. The second message is the key to meeting God's expectation of us is self-control. The third, diversity is His. As servants, we must honor His diversity. And I'm telling you, it was not scary, but there were times when I would hear these things wake me up. And I always thought of it as the emissaries, God's emissaries, because I realized that everything was about bringing us together. And it was never contrary to anything that had been given to us. It was not about me personally. It was about His creations. Later on, I continued, and now it's part of my life. And so this would account for these messages here. These are the messages. All of this turned into, periods when I go into this fasting and meditating. And the latest things is the inspiration for this book, The Humanity's Inflection Point. And these periods when I go through this, it's pretty intense. I would just wake up with my head filled with stuff, and I just start writing. And at first I didn't understand it. I was just, okay, whatever came to me, and would wake me up in the middle of the night, or 1, 2, whatever. Get up and write. And eventually I started seeing a pattern. And this is where it gets into actually challenging a lot of things, well, something that we accept now, which is this whole concept of nature. Because I realized that nature is basically our creation, and like I said, it's God in a godless world. Because nature has the intelligence, the benevolence, and it really is the creator. So when I started these things, it's like look at things like Charles Darwin discovering evolution, and directed to find Dmitri Mendeleev receiving, as he said, in a dream, the periodic table of elements, recognizing that synchronicity that we missed between 10 years difference between Sir Charles Darwin discovering and writing, publishing, right, his theory of evolution. 10 years later, Dmitri Mendeleev receiving in a dream, recognizing these are revelations for our benefit. Those two things are basically at the foundation of our modern sciences, especially that periodic table of elements. That is the basis for us understanding and using things like silicon doping, even now with lithium, because all of these elements have been around for billions of years, just like DNA. These things and the processes of mutation that we recognize as fundamental to evolution. So all of these things have been granted to us so that we can understand it. And if you look at the book, you will see that red line going down. That represents humanity itself. We are being divided, just as the knowledge that comes from God, that is the basis of our sciences, that knowledge, science, technology, these things unite us. There is no debate. We all love phones and technology and computers. That unites us globally. but religions, which come from the same source. This is why I focus on the commandments, because without the divisiveness of religious leaders, religion could be that foundation that unites all mankind. But religious leaders, with their weaknesses, many of them, I will say it, many of them, because of their will, their desires, they can be influenced by the dark forces, the demons of greed, hate, deception can influence them. Whereas science, which comes from the same source, so as religions take us down, the knowledge is taking us together. And so eventually that inception point in humanity's existence, this civilization, is when religions recognize the omnipotence of the same creator, is the manifestation of his omnipotence is what we recognize as our sciences. It's his revelations of his methods. It's why I always think of, and we should learn, that what we call the laws of nature are actually the rules of creation. As they are being revealed to us, we can use the same principles. As a matter of fact, I think we are all aware that the best and brightest among us recognize what the best that we can be is learn from nature. But I recognize now that nature is how we refer to God in a godless world, because we are not comfortable with the accountability that we, given all his gifts, should be held to upholding the commandments. And that's what all of this is about. And so the inspirations that go into humanity's inflection point actually are based on us recognizing his omnipotence. And just as it has taken about 2,000 years to bring this divisiveness, we see wars everywhere, we see autocracies, we see all these negative things because we refuse to accept the living, omnipresent, omnipotent God. We fail to recognize that everything around us, all that we assert to nature are actually the manifestations of his omnipotence. This series I will pick out individual plants and animals that to demonstrate the intelligence that is beyond some random process. And we benefit from this. But again, in a godless world, which is where we are tending to. And some people say, well, but even the religions, so many religions, they go, again, with nature did this. And so we are tending to accept that we are the product of some random forces, when in fact we can see order which indicates intelligence all around us. So it's this journey of meditating, praying, fasting, where these inspirations come. And so there's a lot more. There is quite a lot more that I've written to in all 3 books. My 3 books are Spiritual Renewal, Renewing Our Pact, Understand, Improve Self and Society, and this book, Humanity's Inflection Point, where now I truly understand this is the work that was referred to so many years ago, because now I understand, and now I can get this out to the world. And just as important, as I speak about recognizing God's omnipotence, the internet, all of these things, the capability to broadcast this, to put this in a podcast, it is not lost upon me that he has paved the way for this, revealing the capabilities of silicon, revealing the ability to store digital data. Again, I'm a software engineer for many, many years on many platforms. Okay, I do it on mainframes, it's distributed systems, lots of different languages, big data. I do all of it. Well, the only thing I haven't done yet is quantum computing. I haven't gotten into that. But everything else, at every platform, I've done it. So I understand, I recognize. And this is why I say that AI is really a primitive form of what God has used to give free will somewhere down, down beyond DNA, so that mutations can happen. So as somewhere within the genetic material, the ability to react to external events or conditions in the ecosystem, the genes then decide somewhere there is a database and the ability, like we do with methods, to check, have I seen this before? What should I do about this? And it keeps trying different things. We see that as mutations. So our AI is just a very primitive form of what he has designed. And again, our AI is designed to let things go, again, autonomous. We all have free will. So he does not have to tweak things. So when the idea that God is going to direct me minute to minute, or that he's going to say, Sydney, do this today, that's robotic. That's very robotic. It's not autonomous. He gave us free will, and somewhere deep within cells is that same free will to make decisions based on existing conditions in the ecosystem. So now that I understand this is why I am focused now on getting this word out. So I think this is enough time, and I will be doing a lot more focusing on the work. But just in case someone wanted to know, who is this dude who is doing this stuff? Here is the synopsis. And so thank you for indulging me for a few moments. And until, I want to tell you again, this is not a coincidence. This was meant to be, that you made the decisions to be here, to hear this. And this, hopefully for many, will turn that spark on, because I am just the beginning. There are many who will be greater than me, who will pursue this much, much further down the line. So I want to thank you for taking the time, and until, may God bless. Thanks again.